I played 100 Days of Graveyard Keeper, and this is what happened. Just to break this up a little, I'm doing this in chunks of 10 days, but at the end I'll compile them into a full 100 days video like everybody else. Now, just real quick, I have played this game before and I do love it, but it was like a year ago and I don't remember a lot of parts, so we're kind of in this together, bestie. Day 1 started out with me going to the 7-Eleven, I mean the 23-6, and buying some essentials from a fella named Gary. Then I got a phone call that was so shocking I blacked out and woke up to some guy telling me I'm a graveyard keeper? Whatever. He tells me that if I want to see my wife again, I have to be a good graveyard keeper, which seems like a direct threat, but okay, and told me to dig up somebody named Jerry who'd help me figure all this out. Before I can ask questions though, like where he got this sick fog machine, he's gone and I wake up again in a random house. First things first, I go dig up Jerry, who's just as surprised as I am that he's a talking skull. Then I meet a communist talking donkey who drops off a suspicious looking package. Jerry tells me to grab the nice juicy corpse and bring it inside, and when I do, he tells me to do a little slicing and dicing. I extract some flesh and learn a fun new burger recipe. Yay! I pop that sucker in the ground and Jerry demands a beer in exchange for info on how I can get home. Just then, the bishop shows up, who's apparently my boss, and I find out I'm 30 years late to work. He tells me he won't make me cleric and let me into the church until I fix up the graveyard to at least a 5. I grab some tools the last graveyard keeper left behind and head into town to grab Jerry a beer and try to sell some juicy corpse flesh. My dude Horadric won't buy it though until I get a stamp, but he says I can get a fake one from some guy named Snake who doesn't sound suspicious at all. He also tells me that I can get info on Snake from somebody called Ms. Charm and asks me to take a letter to the blacksmith. I sell him the burial certificate I just got and buy a beer for Jerry before delivering the letter. The blacksmith, Creswald, then gives me a sword and asks me to do his job for him and kill some slimes in his backyard. After neutralizing the threat like the absolute Chad I am, I report back to Horadric, who gives me a beer as a thank you. Great. I definitely didn't just buy one of those. By this point it's getting late, so I head home and give Jerry his beer. He then has the audacity to say it's not strong enough and he wants some wine. He does mention something though about a portal on Witch Hill that can probably get me home. He also mentions an astrologer who might be some help. Armed with this new info, I toddled on home and went to bed. Day 2, I wake up to a ghost by my bed who asks me to dig up somebody who's just totally killing the vibe in the graveyard. I do and toss his body in the river because I blindly follow any perceived authority. Jerry catches me though and tells me that dumping bodies in the river is a no-no and I have to cremate them. I don't have this ability yet though, so I consider drop-kicking him into the river too, only thinking better of it because I might use up some of my precious stamina. Then I dig up a bunch of sticks in the graveyard and fix a couple of headstones to try and improve the image. Then I clear some space in my front yard and harvest materials with the rest of my energy, which gives me enough points to unlock the sawing and mining technologies on my skill tree. It was at this point that I realized I was supposed to talk to Miss Charm today, so I headed into town. By the time I got there though, she's already leaving and tells me to go away, which, fair enough. Day 3, I wake up and the ghost, York, thanks me for getting rid of the buzzkill and explains how the appearance mechanics work for the graveyard. I decide to check out the suspicious hatch in my kitchen, which leads to a pretty big cellar, which is sick. There's also some guy down there trying to break in, which isn't concerning at all. I can't get to him though, so I break down the old barrels for materials and head outside to craft a sawhorse. While I'm looking for more materials, I come across this abandoned garden and the sign says to talk to Horadric about using it. While I'm not usually a gardening queen in game, I figure it's probably important and go to town before I forget. My good buddy old friend old pal Horadric says I'm good to use it as long as I promise to talk to the merchant about it. I get excited because today is the day of the week he shows up, but when I go outside, he's gone. Of course. I take out my anger on some unsuspecting rocks, and on a happy note, I'm able to build a furnace with the rest of my energy. Day 4, I decided to gather as much iron as I could and cleared out all the rocks in the swamp behind my house. I also find a dam that I can't get rid of, though I'm not sure why I'd want to, and a fallen tree that blocks a path up the mountain. I can't get rid of it either though, which is depressing, but I do have an ungodly amount of iron ore, which I find out I can't smelt yet because I don't have enough fuel. My life is hell. Body gets dropped off, so I do some more flesh extraction and plop it into a hole. I also use some of my extra energy to preemptively dig another grave. Then I chop some wood and unlock simple gravestones and primitive forging, which is nice. Day 5 rolls around and Jerry's freaking out because some guy named the Inquisitors over on Witch Hill. I go check it out and it turns out this party is not the vibe, but I agree to be the Inquisitor's friend so I don't end up getting toasted. He tells me he has a task for me and we'll talk about it next time, so I scoot out of there as fast as my little legs can carry me. I immediately run to my buddy Horadric to spill some tea, but he doesn't even ask me why I smell like burning flesh. Rude. Anyway, I sell him a burial certificate as well as the extra beer I bought, buy the teleport stone, and head home. I'm now able to craft a wooden anvil, so I do, and gather some more sticks to get a few iron bars going. I'm then able to unlock firewood and stoneworking and immediately build a chopping spot. I don't have enough nails for a stone cutter though, so I start work on the garden and head to bed. On day 6, some of my iron bars are ready, so I make some nails and build a stone cutter. This lets me make some fancy gravestones, which will raise the graveyard's image a little. Then I realize it's the astrologer's day, so I teleport to town and go in search of the lighthouse. On my way there, I run into an old guy named Dig who's definitely 100% sane, and he promises to teach me how to make cake if I bring him 5 honeypots. I agree and finally end up at the lighthouse. I talk to the astrologer who asks me for a skull, which I can't get yet, so I talk to the lighthouse keeper who promises to give me a fishing rod if I bring him some moths, which I also can't get yet. I can't live, laugh, love in these conditions. Now armed with the recipe for fish nuggets, I head home and am able to unlock the first level of tool upgrades. I immediately upgrade my axe, and while waiting for some more iron to smelt, I plop down some stone gravestones, able to improve the graveyard's image to a -9 before running out of energy. Day 7, I craft some more gravestones and fix up the graveyard as much as I can, but it's still not enough for a promotion, so I just head to bed. On day 8, I start bright and early upgrading my shovel and pickaxe and doing a little more work on the graveyard. It's at this point that I decide I'm fully sick of constantly running out of energy, so I fix the well and make as much bread dough as I can, despite not having enough wood to cook it yet. Then I remember that today is Miss Charm's day, so I teleport the dead horse to talk to her. She refuses to talk to me, however, until I've gained some more faith, which I know I can only do after opening the church. Cool. Some random dude then calls me over to his table to tell me about his poetry and asks me to bring him some paper and ink, neither of which I can get yet. What is with these people? Since I'm already in town and out of energy, I decide to spend the rest of the day exploring and come across a bee guy, a dairy dude, a stone dude, and a wood dude who asks me for an axe in exchange for a recipe. Yeah, why not? That seems like a super fair and definitely equitable trade. By then it's getting late though, so I zip home and head to bed. Day 9, I wake up and immediately chop some wood so I can get the bread going. What? You thought I was gonna make a get this bread joke there? Well, you're wrong, and smelt some more iron before going into town to talk to the merchant. My guy seems to be having some gastrointestinal issues, which, same. IBS girlies unite. So I do him a solid and scare him to help with his hiccups. I ask about the garden, and after some haggling, he agrees to let me have it if I give him 12 each of carrots, beets, and cabbage. Then, circling back around to the hiccups, he asks me to go across the river to the big swamp and get him some hiccup grass. I agree since I'm probably going over there anyway, and skedaddle on home. I get this bread, and then remember I don't know where to get seeds. I teleport back to town and the merchant says I can get seeds from a local farm and tries to scam me, but I'm too big brain and leave. After buying some seeds from an angry little man, I go to see what's to the north of the wheat field and come across a guy with a flour mill. It's broken though, and he won't tell me how to fix it, so I head home. I'm finally able to unlock soft spares and hard spares, meaning I can finally get the astrologer his skull and work on the graveyard a bit before smelting some iron and heading to bed. On day 10, I unlock advanced forging, make some more gravestones, work on the graveyard, gather resources, work on the graveyard some more, and head to bed. And yeah, that is going to be it for this video. That was the first 10 days of our Graveyard Keeper journey. And again, at the end of all this, there will be a full 100 days video. I just wanted to break it up a little bit for editing and my sanity. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!